Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm just going to go through all of the different auction options that are available for you on COMC and kind of explore which ones are the best kinds of auctions for which kinds of cards. Let's get into this. All right, so there's sort of two overarching categories that we're going to focus on, and one is the 7-day auctions on eBay that you can send from COMC to eBay, and one is the live auctions that COMC does on eBay. So let's start off with looking at the regular auction option. So I am on the COMC blog that they made this back on October 21st, and then I'm going to jump back and forth between this article and my own account so you can kind of see what it looks like. So they have a few new options here depending on how you want to do things. So as I say here, you know, these are the two categories, the 7-day auctions or the eBay live auctions. So the 7-day auctions are now split into several different kinds of auctions that are the standard auctions. Sometimes there's some additional ones, and I'll mention that too. So, you know, if you want to do, let's go over here, and I've opened up my inventory. I'm just gonna pretend I'm gonna send this Zach Edey Color Blast to auction. And you can see there's several different options available to me right now. So there's this COMC store credit. Now, I should just mention a caveat that I have what's called advanced user account or something. I don't know what they call it exactly, but they've had this thing for the last couple years at least, where if you sell more than, I think, $6,000 in a year, you have some different options available to you and different fees for certain things and some discounts on some certain things. So I don't know which of these are part of that, you know, like that I'm getting because of that, and which of these are available to everybody. I apologize for that. I couldn't find anything on any of the COMC blogs that makes it super clear just for me to make this video. So if it looks different to you, hopefully this is still useful. So I say that because I don't know if this first one is available to everybody or not. So this is like the standard one, sort of, but it's just this 99-cent minimum fee auction with a 4% transaction fee. This is a regular 7-day auction, and then you get your money back in COMC store credit. Now, really, with the 4% auction transaction fee, that's quite low, but then keep in mind that if you're getting it back as store credit, if you want to cash that out into regular money into your bank account, you have to pay that 10% transaction fee. So essentially it's this 4% plus 10% if you want to get it in cash. So that's about 14%. Now, keeping in mind that if you were to just auction something on eBay by itself, you're paying like 13.25%. plus a tiny little fee or whatever also. So it basically evens out. So, you know, I don't worry too much. A lot of people are a little bit, one of the things I have to say about COMC's fee structure is it's a little confusing. Like there's so many different if this, then that, if this, then that type of scenarios that it makes it a little bit complicated to understand. And when people first become, you know, are trying to become familiar with the fee structure at COMC, it looks like it would be a lot because there's so many like if this, then that, so many little things. But actually, when I've done the math on different varieties of cards, for most types of cards, it really equals out almost evenly to what would happen if you were to just do it yourself on eBay, but then you don't have to be doing a lot of the work. There's some negatives to it. The amount of time it takes to get cards into your store sometimes is absolutely ridiculous. I submitted some cards a number of months back, said it was going to take 4 months before they submitted in, and then it was delayed from that. I still have like 20 cards that were supposed to be submitted back in September, and that was 4 months. So they received them in May, and now it's December, and I still have about 20 cards that haven't been entered into my system. That's 8 months. So, you know, sometimes sending cards into COMC is a headache and a hassle. So you have to be careful about that. If you're trying to sell something quickly, I wouldn't go through that type of process. But there is ways to avoid that process with some of these auctions. You can actually do you can submit some cards if you're going to send them straight to auction. You can actually submit them and they don't go through that long wait. So I'll get to that in just a second. But before I do that, this is kind of like if you already have cards in your system, these are some of the available to you. Now, this is a nice one. These next two are really very similar. It's either if you want your money via PayPal or if you want it via ACH, wire, or check. They're basically the same thing. It's just a different payout system. Now, this is, I think, a good option if you're selling a card. It says suitable for items valued more than $50. I'm personally thinking about it as something that's valued more than $100. But this is the auction. You have the cash out fee of $5 plus 8% of the final value. So you're not having to pay that 10% cash out fee. You're paying a $5 cash out fee. So if you sell a card for $100, it really means that cash out fee is only 5%. So, if I'm selling a card for $100, let's take that as an example. That would mean this is 5% and that's 8%. So that's 13%. 13% they're taking. And again, eBay, if I was to just sell it regularly on eBay, is 13.25%. So that's slightly less than eBay. So that's why I'll only do this if it's a card that's going to be about $100 or so. Then I just get the money directly to PayPal, and that's the best way to do it. If I want to get it in money, if I want cash in my COMC account to buy other cards, then I can keep them there and not have to pay the cash out, any kind of cash out fee. But this is a really nice one. Now, you can also see in here, there's some other options that aren't always available. I think this one might be available to me specifically because I'm one of these advanced sellers or whatever it's called. And this is for cards that are only $1,000 or more. So I did actually put one single card up for sale on this one that's coming up at the end of December. It's a Steph Curry autograph card that I graded through COMC, and it came back 10/10 grading. So I'm very excited that came back like that. So I did end up putting that one up for the marquee auction event because I think it will do pretty well there. Those are some of the options available. But if we look over here, not there. If we look over here, let's see, those are the ones that they mentioned: direct to cash, cash eBay auctions, store credit auctions. They do have some other ones available at different times, but these are the standard ones. Now, currently, if I go over to this, it's not going to look like anything. There's nothing available for live auctions right now. But at different times, there are usually 3 live auctions available to submit to. Let's see if they talk about those. Let's see if they talk about them over here at all. They don't talk about them so much on this page, but the basic idea of the 3 is, again, I don't know which is available to everybody and which is available to me as an advanced seller, but the 3 are a marquee one basically for anything that's above $100, and then another one that's just like a standard one, and then another one that's for the sudden death 15-second live auctions. So those 3 auctions have very different results. One of the things that they did for advanced users, which I really appreciated, is for that higher one, they had a guarantee where if the card didn't sell for its comp price, they would give you additional money just themselves to even it out, which gave incentive to me and other people who are advanced users to go ahead and try out the system. And it was okay. I would say that in general, my cards that were, I put cards up there that were worth $100 or more, and in general, they would sell for probably pretty close to comp. The ones that sold for well under comp, significantly under comp, I was given additional money from COMC. I don't think they're going to keep doing that forever, but there was a couple of cards that I think were comped out at about $150, and then they actually ended up selling in the auction for maybe $75, and they did comp me that additional $75 or maybe $50 or something like that. They did that for a couple of cards. I have had a couple of other cards that were maybe valued at about $100 and they ended up selling for $200. That did happen. It's not bad. I don't use it too much because I feel it's a little bit risky for a card over that value. I'd rather, if I'm going to auction it, I'd rather do it on a 7-day auction to give more people the chance to see it. The second level, which was originally was a $1 fee with like no minimum transaction fee, but they changed that. And now it's a $1 submission. And then it's a $2 minimum transaction fee. So at minimum, they're going to take $3 away from you. So that really took away how I was using that one for a long time, because, if I sell a card for $10, but I submitted it for $1, they get $2. That means I'm 30% of that sale is going to COMC, and I didn't like that. And with those auctions, I find that, $20 cards sell for $5 a lot, even though sometimes $5 cards will sell for $50. You never know, it goes all over the place. But with that fee structure, it was preventing me from sending a lot of cards there after a while. I sent a lot more when it was just $1 submission fee and then the 5% transaction fee with no minimum. That was much better for me, because if a card ended up selling for $10, then it was okay. I would hope it wouldn't be a $50 card that sold for $10, but generally cards were in those live auctions were selling for less than $10 anyway. I think people were mostly submitting lower end cards. So when they upped that fee to that to that minimum $3, I really have stopped using that one almost entirely, except for a handful of cards. And then the other one, they have these 15-second auctions, which is a $1 submission fee with no minimum transaction fee, just like 5% or whatever it is. And that one, the problem with that one is in those 15-second auctions, because of the low submission fees, most people submitting cards to that are submitting $2 cards, $3 cards, and you really have to end up submitting really low cards that you're just trying to get rid of, because if you try to submit a $20 card, it's still getting the same bids as these really lower end cards. So I haven't done very well on that one either. So I've kind of been stepping a lot back from the live auctions in general recently, because other than this, the larger one, which they reimbursed for if it wasn't selling for its comp, then the other two, I was just finding that the sales were getting lower and lower. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you might know that was definitely not the case for a period of time. COMC was one of the very first eBay Live sellers, and for a while when eBay Live was just getting started, there was just a few places for people to go, and so I think they had a lot more visitors in there. The cards, the whole idea of live auctions was kind of a new thing on eBay in general, so people were bidding like crazy. And the prices of my cards were selling were just like, whoa, like this $5 card is sold for $25, and here's another one, and it kept happening. But that happens less and less. It still does happen sometimes, but it happens less and less. And with these larger and larger fees, I've just found that the live auctions are not nearly as useful for me as they used to be, but in some contexts they could be. So those are some of the options. Now, I wanted to look at this too, because there are some ways to skip the long wait. Like if you're submitting cards just generally, you might have a 2-week, 4-week, or 16-week turnaround time. The 16-week there for my recent one was more like 32 weeks, which is crazy. 65, they raised all their prices. Wow. So I actually have a discount on this. If you're an advanced user, you get a discount on this. This used to be 50 cents, $1 and $2. But now it's up to 65 cents. But I think I get mine for like 42 cents or something like that. I can't remember. Wow. So you have to submit at least 100 cards. Okay. Anyway, that's all changed a little bit right there from me. But there are ways to do to skip the long wait. One is this direct to grading. If you're going to get your cards graded through COMC as the grading agent, then it doesn't go through that. It just goes straight into the grading pile, and that doesn't take too long. Just the PSA takes a long time, of course. But then you can also do these direct to auction. So if you want to submit your cards direct to auction, it will be very quickly. Here, maybe this is a way I can do it. Let's say if I wanted to go to my start a new submission. Can I block this out? All right, so you can see if you're going to do a new submission, you can send cards in directly. Like here's this marquee auction event. You have to send it in. It has to be received by this date, which is like, I couldn't send it in time. But you can do direct cash auctions, and this will be listed. But from the time you send it to the time they'll receive it, they'll have it listed on their site in 1 to 2 weeks. It doesn't go into your platform. It doesn't go into your COMC store. It just goes straight to eBay. And you don't get it back in credit, you get it back in PayPal. So this $5 fee plus 8%, so 13% if it's a $100 card, or only 5% if it's a $1,000 card. So if you just want to send something off to get graded, this is a really good alternative to something like DC sports cards or something like that. So that's a really good option if you want to skip the 4-month wait. And then also the direct to grading, it also only takes 1 week for them to get it and then submit it off to PSA, and then PSA will take forever. But those are good options if you are just looking, you have cards in hand currently, they're not in your platform, but you want to send a card off to sell on eBay and not have to do any of the work yourself. This is just like any other consignment company if you were to send it through DC sports cards or something. But again, I wouldn't do this for cards that are under about $100. They suggest 50, but even 50, because if you do 50, that $5, that's 10% of the sales is that $5 plus that other 8%, which is another $4. So I wouldn't want to do that. But if I did a $100 card, then $5 is 5%, and then $8, so that's $13. So yeah, so it ends up being 13%, which is less than it would be if I was to just sell it myself on eBay. So this is a nice option for your cards that are worth about $100. I wouldn't want to do it for cards that are $1,000, even though this is like that, just because I don't know. I just regular auctions on COMC oftentimes sell for a little bit less than some other auctions on eBay. So if it's that much of a value, I'd rather maybe do for a particular event where there's going to be more eyeballs on it. So anyway, that is the end of this video. I hope it was useful. I will see you in the next one. Peace.